Welcome to the Brews and Appraisal Views podcast, where we mix the art of appraising with a splash of insight and a dash of humor. Whether you're a trainee, a seasoned pro, or just curious about the appraisal world, this is the place to be. Grab your favorite brew, sit back, and join us for tips, stories, and expert advice that'll help you grow your appraisal business. I'm your host, Dan Lindeman, certified appraiser, serving the South Florida market for over 20 years. Today, our guest is Ernie Ramos, IFA ASA certified general from outside of Chicago. What's up, Ernie?
Hey, what's happening, Dan? Thanks for having me today.
Of course. So what's going on? How'd you become an appraiser? Tell me about yourself.
So I am a certified general. I've been appraising for 21 years, I think. Yeah, 21 years as of a couple months ago. I started out with an IFA residential guy. He kind of inquired. I have a kind of a computer electronics technician kind of background, and he was a family friend, and he sought me out to I think more to help him with his tech stuff in his office, because he had a hard time typing and saving files on his keyboard. But I worked with him for a while. We're still super close, but he kind of handed me off to an MAI friend of his after about 3 or 4 months. And his MAI friend, we became super close. He was the former director of the Cook County Assessor in Chicago. And he did commercial, residential litigation, stuff like that. And worked and trained under him for a while. Well, I mean, for a long time, actually, but got my residential certification in 2006. Still working with him, but not with his blessing. He wanted me to just go straight to certified general. But I still worked with him, got my certified residential license in, I think, 2006, and just worked towards my certified gen license and received that in 2008. I started my own company in 2006 as well, but still kept working with him and running my own business. He ended up passing away in 2012, so I've solely worked for myself since then, and just plugging away at it still.
That's cool. So yeah, we both got certified, at least certified residential around the same time. Certified residential, I got that in 05, became a trainee in 03 when I was in college. So that's cool. The same amount of experience.
The same, right.
Yeah. So, well, I saw you drinking a beer. I didn't know you'd be drinking, but I am too. So what are you drinking?
What is that? It's like a Halloween one too, is it?
It's called Pumpkin Imperial Pumpkin Ale.
Yeah, mine is a Great Pumpkin Imperial Pumpkin Ale. What? I don't.
Is it from Southern Tier Brewing? Where's it from?
Let's see. What the heck? Let me see where. This came in a big variety pack where there's like four different kinds. I don't even freaking know. Imperial Pumpkin Ale.
For the listeners, it's just like around 5 o'clock. We're not typing appraisals right now, so we're just talking.
Yeah, I had this this pumpkin brew we got, and it was an O'Fallon brewery out of Missouri, and we loved it. And we just found out today it closed. But I went and bought me and the wife a whole bunch of different ones to see if we like it. It seems to only be good around fall, this stuff. Because if it's in the fridge in December, you're not drinking it. Or
I agree.
In the middle of summer, you're not drinking stuff.
And cherry wheat ale is the same way for me. I really like it around, even though it's not fall in Florida. It's so freaking hot outside. But I like cherry wheat ale. I just want it to feel like it's cooler, so I just drink the fall beers. That's what I do miss about South Florida is the seasons. I definitely miss the fall. So today we wanted to talk about private work. Ernie does a lot of private work in his outside of Chicago. I do a lot of private work, or mostly private work in Southeast Florida. So we wanted to talk to the listeners today and maybe steer them in the right direction with private work and how you can diversify your business with that private work. So, Ernie, when I say private work or non-lender work, what are the top sources of that type of work for you? What comes to mind?
Yeah, so just to get a little basis to, and not to get too ahead, but I still, even though I'm a certified general, I do a lot of residential. I have a passion for it. I enjoy it, kind of more than the commercial to an extent. It just depends. we do a lot of 5 and up unit apartment buildings and some mixed use stuff where, there's commercial on one level or 2 levels and residential above or something similar to that. We do a lot of land. My favorite is kind of 5 and up apartment buildings. But as far as private, mostly what we do is estates, like date of death valuations or estate settlement, or estates trying to list the property or offer it for sale, or sell it to an heir, or a ton of we probably do more divorces, so kind of specialize in those. Sometimes expert witness testimony is needed. Sometimes it's residential, sometimes they own a commercial property as well, but a big majority of our work is estates and divorces. Sometimes private listing or sale, but mostly estates and divorces.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Like the estate work, you have the divorce. Divorce is most for me. It's like 35% of my business. Listing work is maybe 15, but the estate work, yeah, there's a lot of need for when somebody dies, there's just spurs so much need. Like I'm doing a portfolio right now. I did an appraisal for a gentleman who was getting divorced a couple of years ago. He reached out to me again. His father passed away, had 5 properties, and he needed the date of death, which was like a year and a half ago. And then he needed current value on all of them as well, because they're going to be dispersing them. And one of the heirs wanted the current value as well. So I love doing the estate stuff and portfolios like that. It's just like it's easy work, and it's just like you have no client breathing down your neck and telling you to get it done. That's what I like most about the private stuff.
The no turn time stuff is great. And I mean, the way we're set up, we don't take long anyway. But you're not looking at the date, thinking you have to have it in that day, and
exactly. I did one yesterday, and I thought, I was like, I've got a couple orders I need to type that I just been slow to type. And I was telling the guy, I'm like, all right, it may be Friday at the earliest, or next week, Monday, Tuesday, but it'll be a couple of days. And they're like, have no problem waiting.
Right.
Because they have no expectation how long an appraisal takes to write up. Whereas a lender is like, I need this 24 hours later or else.
Right. Totally. So, and I mean, the divorces get a little pushy. They don't expect it super fast, but you could understand their anticipation.
Exactly.
Still, I mean, I'd say a good 95% of the people we do divorce work for, they're very pleasant, and they're not pushy, and they're not anxious, and they're not at least taking it out on us, which is a good thing,
Yeah, that's been for the most part, my experience, but there's those 1 or 2 that get crazy. So, yeah. It's like I always ask with divorce work, what deadlines are coming up. That's it. The only deadlines are the mediation coming up or a trial coming up. Other than that, it's like, all right, I'll schedule you further out. So hopefully I can pair you up with another job in that area and schedule them further out, so I have some stability in my schedule. That's what I like about that work. It's like there's no deadlines unless there's an urgency.
Right. Yeah, the only weird thing that I've encountered lately with those is sometimes they'll ask me to testify with very minimal notice, and really just expect me to be there. And there's a whole process to that, and it's nothing that can just be done at the snap of your fingers. If you book your schedule out for a week or 2, like knowing how are you going to be in court in 3 days? I've had it happen.
That's the biggest pain in the ass. So earlier this week, I got an email from an attorney. Actually, it may have been, it was earlier this week. And it said, it's a subpoena by email. And they're like, we need you to testify on Monday. So like less than a week notice. Monday afternoon in Fort Lauderdale, I need to be down there at 1:30. But the appraisal I have Monday at 10 o'clock is like an hour and a half northeast of there.
Wow.
So I'm like, oh my God. This is going to be a terrible day. So,
I mean,
whatever. It is what it is, but you have to, can't say no.
Is that subpoena that they're sending you? I mean, is it even legit at that point? I mean, you have to get proper notice and.
Oh. So.
I mean, it's different in every state too, how it works.
This attorney I work with, some people will serve you a subpoena at your door. I don't like that at all. I absolutely, it's just like, it's so awkward when you get a subpoena at your door and there's like, the kids are playing in the cul-de-sac and there's somebody serving you a subpoena. So, and sometimes it's with attorneys that I routinely work with. So I'll tell them like, no, you don't need to serve me. You can serve me by email. That's totally fine. But that one that I got for Monday, it's an attorney that I've worked with for years. It was a prior case that got postponed. I was supposed to go to trial and then just got rescheduled. So I have no problem with her emailing it to me. And it's because that's my relationship with that attorney. I set that expectation with her. Like, hey, I'm there for you. Like,
switch it up and send her an engagement and what your rates are, and
that's already covered. I am already getting paid by the client in my engagement letter. So I let them know, like, hey, if you're going to trial, I need 4 hours, $1,200 retainer. If it's in person, you're going to burn through that $1,200. If it's on Zoom, because we have one county that's still on Zoom and doesn't on Zoom, it's most likely going to be half that. So I already spoke to this client and she was willing to pay me. I cut her a deal because I did an appraisal update for her. So I told her it'll only be $600 to go to trial for her if I can just go at a certain time. But that's handled by the client. The attorney doesn't pay it. It's handled by the client and already agreed to in the engagement letter. So it's not like I'm doing shit for free. I'm not doing it for free.
Right. They'll try sometimes, if it's not someone you deal with, and it's just like, I deal with I just have my engagement says any trial or appearance or deposition will have to be a separate engagement. That's all, and it typically works out just fine. It's just weird, earlier in my in my career, when I was just doing a minor amount of private, most of the time it would be attorneys who would hire. But the trend is in my office, especially since we started focusing on that kind of work, the attorneys will like refer an appraiser to, sometimes the courts will, or they'll tell their clients to hire one. And, like they'll tell their clients to hire an appraiser, like they won't even have any involvement in it. So it's always the client or the property owner that's your client and that you're dealing with. So it gets a little, it's straightforward there with payment and agreement. It's just when it gets to, if there's ever a trial, you're dealing with an attorney who wasn't your client to begin with, and he's just kind of unappreciative of your time, it seems, or just thinks that you're going to be there whenever he snaps his fingers at the last late minute before his trial. That's what I found,
Yeah. So for me, the attorney is like very rarely is the attorney the client. It's always this is how the engagement goes. The one of the spouse calls me and says like, hey, my attorney recommended you to do the appraisal. So my engagement's directly with the attorney's client. A lot of times I'll get an email with the attorney and the client on the email saying, hey, we recommend Dan to do the appraisal. Please reach out to him and schedule it. And then from that point on, my engagement letter, every single private assignment, I have them complete an engagement letter, except for pre-listing stuff where I know the agent and we already have an agreement, and I don't have them sign an engagement letter every time. But for especially divorce, estate, it's all an engagement letter every single time. I do not deviate from that, because that's where my expert witness testimony comes in. If they need me, they signed that engagement letter 2 years ago saying, hey, I'm going to pay you $300 an hour to go ahead and go to trial if need be. So, but yeah, you're right. The attorney is never is most never the client for me either.
The engagement's so important because some people will try and use that appraisal for something else, or they don't want to disclose what it's for. And you get divorces. A lot of times people will like not tell you it's for a divorce, but we kind of try and sniff them out, but and it's just so if you give them something, that for like an estate, and it needs to be as of date of death, and it's got to be a certain definition of value, or it's for a divorce. I mean, the intended use should be that. But if it's something that should be retrospective and they don't really tell you what it is, and then they can't use the appraisal because they didn't order it properly or didn't disclose what they need it for, then it's on them, not you. But if someone just calls you and you take the order and write it down, who who's going to be pointing fingers there? That, you know?
Yeah, that's so. Yeah, I want to go back to that. What you were just saying, like, I have the data. I have the data value on my engagement letter. Do you need the current value or
Right.
a different an alternate data value? But when people are calling, I don't like. I did like an education thing on this about you need to really get down why they need the appraisal. I
Right.
always ask what's the address and what's the purpose of the appraisal.
Right.
And a lot of people are coy and like, oh, I just want to know the value.
Right.
Why do you want to know the value?
Right.
I just want to know. Oh, bullshit. You just don't want to know. There's something else going on that you're not sharing with me.
100%.
And I'm not gonna freaking get involved with something that I don't know the clear
It
picture
leaves
of.
you open for some liability because you don't know what they're doing with it, you know, and you might not be writing it to what they need it for, you know, but they don't get it. Like you said, it's just educating them on why.
Yeah.
You know, but
why do you want to know that? I'm like, because I need to know why you need the appraisal. I need to know if you need the value as of the date of death or need current value, or is there a trial coming up that you're not telling me about?
Right.
Like this one guy was like, oh, there's no particular reason why I need the appraisal. I'm like, dude, I want to be interested in that assignment. Nope, I'm out. I'm not taking on that assignment right now. I'm not joking. I fucking say that. Right. I'm just not interested.
I've trained my assistants really well when taking those, but to them, you know, not understanding it 100% of why we do what we do, you know, some people will just say we need it for market value. Well, no shit. But and it's hard to explain to them that, but now they get it. But after a while, they're like, no, they just need market value. Well, no, there's a purpose, you know. Then there has to be an intended use to it, because you don't know what, like you said, you don't know where they're taking it or what they're going to do with it. And I mean, I do a lot of tax appeal. Well, I have a big tax appeal background just because of my mentor. I don't practice it a ton, but I do some. And most people that, you know, call for that purpose don't understand when they need, you know, when what data value they really need.
Sure.
You know? So, yeah. You know, I just need, you know, if they don't disclose what they're going to be using it for, then, you know, most of the time the appraisal's useless.
So is your it's a January 1st of that year going backwards? Is that how it works up there?
Yeah. Yep. And in all the counties I work, it's all January 1st, you know, retrospective.
Yeah. So we were sharing this before. I don't get a lot of tax appeal work at all down here. Like we spoke a couple of months ago or whatever, and we were talking about tax appeal work. It's not big at all down here for me for residential work, but I did get a couple of calls in the past few weeks about tax appeal for people who inherited the property, it got reassessed, and now it's like astronomical. But one of them was another one where this lady, she said she overpaid quotation marks for the property in 23, and she's like, well, why is the assessed value so high? I'm like, the assessed value is actually less than what you paid for it. I'm like, I can't. How am I going to help you on this appeal?
What case do you have when they pull that?
I'm like, you plead your case and say you overpaid because you wanted that property. I don't know what to tell you, but you could spend $500 and get an appraisal with me. It's going to be not help your case. You want to try and do that,
right? You know, and so you kind of tell them like, hey, you establish market value by fact when you bought it. You know, I mean, it's really not even an opinion anymore. I mean, yeah, you might overpay, but the definition of what market value is, and you know, the seller sold to the buyer that wanted to buy it. And
so I spoke to her for 15 minutes. Like I think it was yesterday I spoke to her, and I'm like, I would plead that case. I'm like, I overpaid for it. I know I overpaid for it. There's one in that building that was priced higher, or the price lower than mine, that was updated. Mine wasn't updated. I paid higher because I wanted it. It was on the first floor. It had a boat dock. I would say that case to the county and see what they say.
Right.
But as far as that, I can't help you. And she's like,
there's a lot more to appeals than that. You know, and it depends on the law and how it's written. You know, there's some uniformity aspects that they're supposed to follow, or some states follow. But still, if they have a sale, it's real hard to.
It's
if
a great evidence.
Period. And I tell people like that all the time, and be like, you know, that's $100,000 lower than you just paid. What are you trying to appeal? You know, but I'll tell you, I was just a little example. I was trying to help a new neighbor. I was really good friends with the people that left, and they left because of super high taxes. we're in the Chicago area, in the northeastern Illinois. Our taxes are freaking nuts. They're just nuts. And I moved out of Chicago's county, which they're a little bit more fair for what you get, and schools are great. But it's starting to creep up a little bit again. And just because after COVID, the only things that are selling are super freaking high. So the only thing the assessor has to use is like really high sales, even though you got 2 sales in a subdivision of 200, and next thing you know, everybody's getting assessed at somewhere near those rates, which starts to get insane. But the neighbor probably overpaid by about 50 grand on the obvious side of things, because there's nothing on the market. Nice house, biggest model in the subdivision, so I thought. But his taxes were higher than the previous people, or the assessment was higher than the previous people paid, and then they paid like 100 grand more than it was assessed. And I just told him, hey, you're being assessed about 100 grand higher than the same model, 2 of them across the street. I'm like, and he's like, hey, can you help me? I'm like, well, first let's start measuring it. They had it like 3,303 square feet, right? So big for our neighborhood, biggest model. I measured it, and it was 2667. So 625 square feet smaller than it really is.
So did he know that buying it?
No.
He
had an appraisal waiver done because he put like 100.
Oh,
so
it sucks to be him.
No shit. And like the weird thing is, there was 3 other backup offers at that or more. So like, I felt terrible because I mentioned something to him, and he was like, yeah, go ahead, and I was just helping him, trying to help, because I don't want my assessment to go up crazy either. So I want shit to kind of be uniform in my neighborhood. So like, because I didn't pay nowhere near that, So what it is it has like 2-story foyers and big 2-story family room, and just it appears really big. It has these big attic spaces that you can make into walk-in closets or something, but they're not heated and cooled. They were only like, one of them was partially finished with like exposed insulation, other one was just insulation. But from whatever, it was a previous administration of the assessor who measured these houses back around 2000. So like, I thought the house was way bigger than mine, but it's barely. And I felt bad breaking the news to him like that. Almost, it's like a young couple with a 3-month-old baby, and they just paid a bunch. They saved up for 2 years to find something. And then, hey, they don't have the biggest house in the subdivision, it turns out. But the assessment was based on that. But like when we were going through this, the county went and reassessed us versus our township, and he didn't have enough time to appeal. They reduced the square footage, and they're like, next year we'll try and make a uniform to the neighborhood, but like, screwed this year, So, but it just goes, appraisal waivers are getting a real appraisal done, or an appraiser to measure the thing, or going
off paid for itself.
Yeah, right.
Well, crazy paid for itself. He would have negotiated probably a lower price. Like, hey, this is 600 square feet smaller. Like, hey, I want a reduction in this price.
Right.
That fucking sucks.
I probably, if we had time, I probably could have saved them, and not doing anything funny, just with comparables based on what they're assessed at. Probably could have saved them about 3 grand a year. But, but he didn't move on a couple things I advised him on. And I was just offering to help him just as a neighbor. So
you did your part.
But you know what? I got involved a little too much, because it just ended up being more time and explanation, and then I didn't even end up helping him anyway.
That's how it works sometimes.
But I mean,
I have a question. So your assessed values change every year? They're reassessed every year?
No, so in Chicago's county, they have a triennial cycle where they do it like every 3 years. In my county, it's each township does it versus the county, and my township does it quadrennial, so every 4 years. And they did it last year in my township, and I appealed with my little tricks and just kind of looking at how other houses were assessed versus values, and I got it down a little bit. I thought I was good for 4 years. Well, our county went and did some multiplier and and did it again the next year. And I found out this is the first time, because I've been familiar with assessments for over since I've been in the business at all, because I work with the former director of probably one of the biggest counties in the country, and he was the brains behind it. But like, I've never known that they can just add a percentage or even out everybody just because they feel like they can, and they don't even have to notify you. They do give you a window to appeal, but there's no notification when this particular county does it. So like, we all got reassessed, and it's not to say our taxes will go up, because I think like the levy and the rate will balance itself a little bit, like to where they might barely go up, but they reassessed me another 12%. So like, in 2 years, we went up 22%. I mean, there hasn't been enough sales in our market to justify a 22% increase. It just, they don't occur. They haven't occurred. So, I mean, hopefully it doesn't go up a bunch, but like, they were able to up it, and legally, without even notifying. So it's how I've had people call me, and just the same as you, oh, can I appeal? We called before and said, we just bought it. And I'm like, well, it's assessed lower than you paid, Well, still, a couple of them noticed that they got reassessed again. Like, well, can you help now? I'm like, it's still assessed lower than you paid,
Does your municipality give a cost of sale adjustment?
Like, if they bought it for that? Or
Yeah, like, so for example, if your assessed value is like $100,000 in one of the counties down here, they'll give a cost of sale adjustment like of 15%. So they'll knock 15% off that as the cost of sale adjustment. But we're lucky down here too in Florida. Like, well, I don't know, lucky, whatever.
Right. Well, maybe
we have a homestead exemption.
Right.
Like, as soon as I have a homestead exemption, my property can only go up. My rate can only go up 3.5% a year. So maybe that's why we don't have lots of appeals down here.
Right.
Is because maybe we have a lot of homestead properties that only go up a certain percentage a year, and the people who are non-residents are the ones who are taking on the chin.
That makes sense. Like, so my township went up 9% in 2023, and it seems it's kind of high, but like, they just took the township average or something. It isn't crazy, because in Cook County and Chicago's county, most of the calls I get, their increase was 30 to 80%. So say they had, in a nice suburb, their split level was assessed at 230 or 240 grand. Well, with all the COVID sales and everything, after that, they were assessed at like 380 or 390, things like that. Or there's these suburbs with really high tax rates, to where it was like foreclosures and stuff is a trend over time, and investor flips in these these areas kind of near me, and they'll have, say it was assessed at 160 grand. Now all of a sudden it's 300.
Wow.
And realistically, that's the sales that are occurring. But in 1 year, how can anybody budget that when when our tax rates and everything are so high?
That sucks, but it will say it's good for appraisers with that, looking for that tax appeal private work. That's good for you guys up there.
The problem is you kind of have to understand the whole process, and it's mostly done with tax appeal attorneys. And so it's a big business for the attorney. It's way bigger business than it is for any appraiser, because they get a third of the attorney gets a third of the savings for the first year. And I mean, what does the appraiser get? A few $100,
Yeah. So have you thought about acting as like just actually not doing the appraisal, just gathering the data and being their advocate, and just charging them as a consultant to do it like that? Do other appraisers do that in that market?
It's not really an option. They do have, though, they have some companies that do that, but only an attorney can represent them.
Oh, really? Get out of here. No way.
No one can act as an advocate, for them, and if you're, it's weird. You're crossing some appraiser boundaries if you're acting as an advocate for them.
You're taking your appraiser hat off.
Right.
You're not acting as an appraiser. You're just
Right. But yeah, you can only represent them if you're an attorney. It's weird.
Get out of here.
Yeah. And
so do you go to hearings? Like,
I've never been to, a board of review or a state level hearing. One of my guys, the guy that got me into business and introduced me to Miami he's done them. I've never been asked, but most of the time it's because my reports are so freaking solid that they don't even know, that there's nothing to argue about. But I've never been for assessment purposes,
Got it.
So, I mean, it happens, but it's a game. It's kind of like back before 2008, how we used to get preliminary requests, like what is it, comp checks or whatever they used to
Oh
send
my
us.
God. Oh yeah, I got that earlier this week. It was so funny. We need a pencil. We need a pencil search. This is a fucking commercial property. I'm like, it's a commercial property. I don't do those, but who the fuck says pencil search anymore? Like, who told you that?
Right. Yeah, I mean, remember, like, it used to have a fax that would come through with like pre-comps.
And unfortunately, I referred it out, and I'm like, I'm so sorry. This is probably not going to work out because they reference pencil searching referral.
Right.
I'm like, I'm sorry.
Yeah, right. And but it's like that unfortunately in the tax appeal world. I mean, it's the turn. That's why I don't do it, because the way it comes out is, even though in either area or either county that I mainly work in, the townships will open, and you'll have like 30 days to appeal. So when it's like floodgates, so you don't want to. How do I want to explain? You don't want to spend a bunch of time if you can't help somebody.
Oh,
and you could tell pretty easily, like just briefly doing preliminary, if they probably have a case or if they don't. So whether you do it a restricted appraisal or not, but either way, the way the attorneys work, it's like they're sending it to the lowest bidder, like the mortgage companies did the highest bidder back before 2008. And it's a game I am not playing, nor do I have time to, and nor in 1 month can I do a half a township, and look and do 40 properties when you already have other business focuses,
Sure.
or just waiting for tax appeals to come, so it's just a shitty kind of business, you know what I mean? I love helping mom and pop who are getting screwed, but that's the extent of it,
Totally correct. And that stuff, there's very rarely I can help somebody on an appeal. I'll tell them, I don't want you to pay $500 for an appraisal and it be worthless and you not get something. So yeah, I'll look up the data with and I'll be like, yeah, I wouldn't be interested in the assignment because I don't want you to waste $500.
Right.
So that's the goal. All right, Ernie, I want to take a break and tell you about our sponsor today. So hang right there for me, Ernie.
Sure.
All right, so this episode is brought to you by the Appraisal Referral Network. It's your go-to platform for non-lender appraisal referrals. Whether you're an appraiser looking to expand your business, take on more private work, or need to refer a job beyond your coverage area or your expertise, referappraisals.com has you covered. You can earn up to a 12% referral fee while connecting clients with the best appraiser for their needs quickly and efficiently. Join the Appraisal Referral Network today and grow your business the smart way. So visit referappraisal.com to get started. So Ernie, are you a member of this amazing platform?
Oh, it's freaking amazing. Of course. Yes. Yeah, no, when I came across you, I don't know if it was just an email or what, I thought it was a great idea.
It was me spamming you. It was
I think so.
Me spamming
you. And it was this freaking old email that I only get spam at anyway. I'm like, did I reply to this?
You're welcome.
Is he out of this country or what? In India?
We're running this out of India.
Right.
That's a joke. We're not running. We're running it out of South Florida.
No, but I've built a big private business. I switched my business around in about 2018. And
why? Hold on. Why?
Wow, that's a crazy story. So I kind of learned doing private. When I was with Miami when I was learning residential, we mostly did litigation work and private stuff and divorce stuff and just weird, crazy scenarios, complex properties to basic properties. But, that was my background. But, in my own business, what comes, what's kind of easy to kind of run your business on is the lending work. So for, a good, probably, almost 10 years, maybe a little longer, plus or minus, most of my work was single family lending work outside of some, larger multifamily apartment buildings, and very minor amount of commercial outside of the 5 and up units. And, I had a good 2 main clients, and then the rest were just fillers, but you really dedicate yourself to service and, customer service for them, but also their clients. And, I just kind of ran into a couple situations where I got blackballed. I basically got
blacklisted.
Oh yeah, same thing. But you know what? They wouldn't.
Same meaning.
Yeah, same meaning. But they wouldn't admit it. I'm still on. I had a 10-year client, really good relationships with one of the main offices and all the loan officers, and some of them I'm really good friends with today. Never asked for anything weird, but I started getting requests to do reviews, and thinking them knowing my my license level and just the quality of stuff I put out, I'm thinking they want to know the right answer. So I'm doing these reviews, and I'm like, nothing's wrong with the value, but the appraisals are garbage. Like they're not getting all the facts right. Like the site's wrong, the zoning's wrong, half the stuff's made up, and they're just slapping something together, and it might as well be a CMA, but whoever was doing them just was making way too many factual mistakes. And most of the time the value wasn't off. Sometimes the address would be off, the legal description wouldn't be in there, just the most basic stuff. And I'd be like, hey, I don't have an issue with the value, it's there. But if they can't justify all these errors, then you need to have an appraisal done by someone who's actually competent, because getting the zoning wrong and the site wrong and the legal wrong is, it could be a buyback or something, but I think I kind of figured out after doing a few of them that I think might have killed their deals, that they just wanted me to rubber stamp them, so, I went from doing just with this one client doing 4, 5, or 6, 7 grand a month with them to, wait, I'm busy, but like not that busy to where we haven't got an order in a month, and then I reach, oh, nothing's wrong. You're on the panel, nothing's going on, and, and I talked to my friends who run an office, and they're like, why aren't you getting our work? And it took a little while, but, I found out that it was someone got pissed at me for not rubber stamping these freaking reviews. And around that time, I got the IFA and ASA designation. And like, I don't know if it was just a coincidence or them just thinking, hey, this guy's not going to bend for us, even though like we're providing turnaround times and quality stuff and really don't have any issues or comebacks or revision requests or anything. It was just that I couldn't rubber stamp crap, And I had another big bank that someone that was in my wedding was a big high level exec there, and he left. As soon as he left, as soon as we didn't meet a contract, and they were like sending us 5 a day. But like, not that we could do them, but like you'd have to look them up and see what you could take, see what you could fit and meet the due date to nothing, Wow. So after that happened, even though I got begged to be on the 10-year clients backlist again, I just vowed. I had 2 kids in daycare, 2 mortgages. I'm like, I will never let one client dictate my income again, and I just researched and it took me a long time, but just a lot of networking, and it's still, I don't know if you want me to get into all of it, but it just took me about 4 or 5 years to build a private business that's sustainable. Sure. I didn't know it was there. I always knew that there was divorces, and I was always versed in them, but I didn't know there was volume of it.
Sure.
Yeah. And and if you listen to people like Dustin, the appraiser coach, or Blaine, like the Real Value Cast, they'll teach you how to do it. But like, I was doing it before I heard them putting that out there.
Yeah. Likewise.
It's just it takes a lot of work. It's out there.
And it takes time to establish it. It's not like you can send out an email to an attorney and hope that he sends you business, or You're going to post something on Facebook tomorrow, and now agents are going to start hiring you.
Right.
No, this shit takes a long
It gets
time
a lot of
and
work.
consistency.
There's a lot of functions to it too. You know,
Yeah.
there's a lot of pieces there's a lot of things you have to work at.
And you learn stuff all the time. I'm like, what works for some clients doesn't work for other ones, and other attorneys. Everybody works differently, but it's just like you just keep building. You just have to start doing it at some point. So there's no better time to start trying it than now, or you're going to be stuck on this fucking lending cycle, down and then up and up and down, having to get a part-time job or a full-time job. You're going to be stuck and be miserable, and you're going to hate AMCs. You're going to hate banks. You're going to hate everything if you don't diversify.
100%.
So your blacklisting story was the same as mine. Like I didn't make value. Like it was a lender who gave me like probably half my business at that time. It was like freaking like 60, 70 grand a year.
Right.
And I 2 kids, probably 2 mortgages as well at that time. And it was just like, oh my God, I didn't realize this was even possible. They just just stopped sending me work because I didn't make a value. Right. This fucking reviewer was like, do you realize the canal behind this house is about 4 feet larger than the canal behind that one? Why wasn't there an adjustment? I'm like, oh my God. Or this one had a volume ceiling and this other one only had 10-foot ceilings. It's like, oh my God, this is like telling you that you need to hit the number by not telling you need to hit the number.
Right.
And it's like, no, my number was accurate. It's like, I'm not changing it based on this. And then they're like, and then the next got a letter in the mail. Like, yep, you've been off the list. I'm like,
wow.
Yeah. And then a couple of years later, I wrote an appeal, which I should have never wrote an appeal. And then I got back on their list. And I'm like, I'm never accepting another job ever again from this company. Yep. So I got blacklisted, reinstated, and never accepted another job.
Oh, wow. You know, yeah, I mean, it's similar with me. It's crazy though, because you kind of bend over backwards and you service people. And I mean, and you kind of guarantee when you do what we do and you care that there's not many others doing it to the level that you do it at outside of just making the number, you know, that, and even the loan officers who you know, I had relationships. I mean, none of them gave a crap if I made a number or not. I mean, there might be a couple greedy guys that like get mad because their wives make more than them or something like that. But otherwise, like they don't care. These guys never gave a crap. And I mean, it didn't happen often because their clients were always super freaking educated. You know, it's just the clientele that they had that it didn't freaking matter. But it just goes to show you that, you know, the quality and your expertise in some of that world means shit. It means nothing. I kind of figured out, like with this bigger lending institution that my buddy worked at and that he left, like they don't want a designated certified general doing their residential, no matter if we're turning them around with super high quality. That's not what I've realized that I don't fit.
Right.
You know, that's what I realize. And it's like just trying to get good at what you do, what you can't, you know, you can't service them either. It's just weird, but it was just eye-opening, you know? And yeah, in the private, you know, it's not so easy to get volume of it, but the volume is there and it's consistent, you know? And I mean, I enjoy it. I enjoy helping people because you're always helping people through something, you know? And, you know, versus just helping loan officers make 3 times what you make.
Yeah, right. So speaking of helping people, so the private work, obviously there's another side to it. Like you have to put more customer service focused on the client. So what have you run into any situations that are like, what's the worst situation you run into with some private work where you need to,
man, can I open another beer?
I already opened one. So.
Hold on. You know, I don't know. You know, on the private side, I mean, I could bring up a big example of a divorce trial, you know, against somebody I know with a high designation who I respected, but it was just kind of a mess. Yeah, you know, but I don't want to get into that. But like, I'll tell you one the other day. Just I just did it. What's today? Thursday. I just did it Tuesday, and over the weekend. So it was for a wife. she ordered the appraisal, and she weirdly on the engagement, she put the husband's name too. And we were like, well, you guys mutually agreeing to use us for, the appraisal for the divorce. And there was a little bit of a language barrier there, but she was super intelligent and kind of understood. But like, over the weekend before going there, he started calling on Sunday, the husband. And he just said, there's an appointment set up and we don't need your services. And this is for divorce proceedings. And, you're not wanted. And something weird to that extent, And then, Sunday, I didn't call him back or pay attention to it, Well, then he emails something similar. So I just responded really professional. I said, hey, sometimes the husband orders it. Sometimes the wife orders it. Sometimes they mutually do, kind of rarely, but they mutually do. Sometimes the courts will agree to use our company, and then both of the, property owners would be the client, sometimes it's the attorney. I'm like, but, in this case, she engaged us. So, if she wants us to do an appraisal, we'll speak to her about it, and then, if you guys don't want us there, that's fine. And he emailed something crazy back. He was talking nonsense, kind of threatening and really weird, but we called her Monday and she's like, no, I have a restraining order against him. And you know what? I'll just put my name on it and you're coming. Weird thing is when I'm like, well, and at that case, it's a little scary, but you know what? I kind of get where he was, his point of view. If he didn't okay it and he doesn't understand the process, there's a couple points of it that I get. But I was super nice and professional to him, and he went out kind of off on me, So like, if she pays for an appraisal, like, go pay for one yourself, then, dude. I don't, what's the difference? But then like some 6'4" guy answers the door when I'm there, and I'm like,
oh boy,
here we go.
Is this the husband?
Here we go. But it was her son. He's probably there protecting her anyway. He didn't care what was going on. So
you just reminded me of a story. Sorry, go ahead. Finish.
No, it went smooth and everything. She did end up calling me though after, and was a little unsure of the process. She's like, you took a lot of pictures here, and there, there's some issues that I pointed out, and is this just like a realtor coming to take pictures and market my home? And I'm like, no. And I just explained to her how market value works, especially here. Because I've run into a couple times where in other countries, I don't know if it has to do with markets to where they don't really buy and sell on open market, or there isn't land value or something. But like they think it's like bricks and sticks you're valuing, like it's a painting or something, And, I almost think she wanted me to start testing plumbing and trying to figure out their solar system, which is rare here, but they had one.
Oh my God.
And it's like, I'm like, hey, just so you know, it's based on sales, and I've had 10 sales in your subdivision, and we compare and contrast them, and, it's all about market value, and, we consider everything about condition and what you told me or what you might be lying about.
So that's a big thing with divorce is I actually like to know what's your outcome? Are you trying to buy the spouse out, or what the deal is, just so I can weigh what they're telling me? Because obviously if they're trying to buy their spouse out, it's the worst fucking house in creation.
Right.
And it's got so many problems. I'm like, well, why are you trying to buy your spouse out? It's a terrible house the way you describe it. And then the other one was like, wow, this house is amazing. I'm like, so I want to know the motivations just so I can weigh what these people are telling me.
Knowing that could be good and bad, but you're not lying about the information that they give.
Yeah, it's like they're swaying that, trying to sway you as much as they can. It's like, I'm not that stupid, but like I realize that your 10-year-old AC is not going to bring down the value $100,000. It's like it's got 5 years left. It's okay.
Right.
So yeah, you reminded me of a story when you were saying about this crazy guy. So I did a divorce one. It wasn't a divorce. It was like a partition case where they both owned the property. They were never married, and she was suing him to get half the value because she wanted out or whatever the case may be. But I went around the house. It was a big property, maybe like 4,000 or 5,000 square feet, over an acre lot. So I went around the property, took pictures, and I was like turning on lights, turning off lights as I leave the room or whatever. But I must have left a couple of lights on because he came out when I was talking to the wife or the whatever, his ex-girlfriend, to sign the engagement letter and stuff outside. He's like, you can't just come here and leave these lights on like this. He's like, this isn't right. I'm like, dude, I'm sorry I left the freaking lights on. No, it's like no big deal. And then after I left, everything was fine. And she left. She's like, oh, I'm so sorry for him. And he's like texting her. He's like, I know you're having an affair with that guy. Where did you find him? It was like, calm down, buddy. Calm down. I live right down the road. I'd never met your wife before, or your ex-girlfriend, whatever, before. I'm just doing an appraisal. I'm sorry I didn't turn off the fucking hallway light.
Yeah,
it's like these people have their hot emotions are so high. You just need to freaking deal with it. You can't even meet their emotion because you just need to be the bigger person in those situations.
And thankfully, the majority of the ones we get, the people are really cordial, and it's not too much of a hostile situation. But I'll tell you, when you kind of transition to that work, kind of like you were saying a little while ago about the customer service aspect of it. Like me in my office, my 2 assistants, I've trained them great, or they're just awesome on their own and dealing with them, and just being compassionate and understanding and not making the process so difficult for them because they're all stressed out as it is, and me, the way I have the office set up now, I don't answer the phone too much, and I try not to make people call me too much, or it's just not efficient. I can't get nothing done, and our fees suck here. So, if I got to sit on the phone for half the day, I won't be able to pay these stupid taxes. But anyways, like, my time I spend is with them, and with the estates and divorces, man, do you have to listen to a lot of things they have to say because they're going through a lot, and just being understanding or relating to them in some other way, and it doesn't have to be their divorce situation, just that they're going through some hard times, is you just have to be understanding and listen, and that helps. I know that's helped my business grow because I spend a lot of time, and sometimes I'm like, man, why do I spend an hour talking to these people so much? Because like in the lending work, half the time you're getting a lockbox code. The agents are so lazy, they don't meet you anyway. I mean, not that you need them there, but sometimes if they should be, they're not. And you're in and out, and I mean, if I do a 6-unit apartment building, I'm in and out there faster than I'm in a 1,200 square foot ranch.
Yeah. What are you chatting with the tenants or what?
Right. But in these other cases, you just have to listen to what they have going on. I mean, you don't have to do anything, but it's part of it.
Yeah. So private work isn't like it's just another type of work. It still has the difficulties where lending work, you're freaking dealing with AMCs and revision requests. The private side, you're dealing with customers, like the customer service aspect. Like, yeah, you may need to spend 20 minutes more with this spouse who's just freaking bawling her eyes out because her husband cheated on her and she doesn't know why, and they've been together for 50 years. Like, you just need to spend time with those people. So they each have their challenges.
Right.
It's just like, which challenge do you want?
Right,
which one do you want?
Exactly.
So
exactly.
It's kind of tough.
But at the same time, no lender or interest rate is dictating my income right now.
Exactly. And you have the freedom to do whatever you want. Like this guy, like I was just doing, it was another one where they weren't divorced and they were splitting up, but I did an appraisal for him, and it's like, listen, I'm a officer with the sheriff. I'm a sheriff in the county or whatever. Is there any type of discount you can give or whatever? And he didn't tell me this. He told me like on site. I'm like, yeah, sure. I'll knock $25 off or whatever. I won't charge you the process credit card fee, and I'll just knock $25 off. You can't do that shit with the lending work, but it's like made that guy's day. Like, all right, cool. I just saved freaking $40 because I'm an officer, and shit, I want to know that officer. I want him patrolling my streets. I want him as a friend.
And that you kind of said that you kind of do what you want. I mean, in the divorces and estates, you really can't give them if it's for accounting purposes or something, or there's a bunch of errors, you really can't give them many appraisal options, but in private work outside of that, you can offer many options. There's a lot of restricted report options you can do, and just some more limited formatting outside of doing it, outside of doing a whole complete form. There's a lot of options. It's just you have to make them understand what they're getting, and you have to make sure that the purpose fits. But you can also, we have a few different formats we can offer a lot of the time, and and if you give them options, you kind of put it in their court. And
Right.
and the fees vary, your time on them varies, and some you make more per hour than others, but at least if you give them a choice, it isn't just that single 1004 form or the GP form that you give them
Yeah.
all the time.
I've noted. Well, the GPAR, I use that for everything. I use that for like a interior. I'll use it if I just do like a
An
we call it a
exterior,
desktop or whatever.
right?
But I just use it for all. Just check the box, like did not
Right.
inspect, photos supplied by the MLS or the client or whatever, and I'll just make it subject to whatever my interior observation or whatever,
Right.
subject to an observation. And I find like I do that a lot with properties I don't even want to drive to. I'll be like, you could really do a desktop, like a virtual appraisal here or a desktop. We got a lot of data online. It's going to be the same value. I'm like, you should do that and save yourself $100.
Right. A lot of times, it's great, especially if the data's there or there's MLS. The problem with my area is the square footage and the records are so freaking off.
That sucks.
That's
Mine
what
are so
sucks.
good. Mine
Right.
are so freaking good.
Right. And I know some areas that are, and some of my markets are, but like the ones that aren't, it's like I could do it, but like I'm like, I don't feel comfortable without measuring the freaking thing, just because the records are such a shit show, and it sucks because you're using that same data to do the valuation, but it's like,
Dude,
what do you do?
my value is subject to, I'm assuming this stuff's correct. It's subject to those items.
Right.
So
Right.
I only cover one county, basically one and a half counties. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. I mean, I'm on the board. I live a mile from my other main county I grew up in. So like, I mainly cover two, but I mean, there's other ones I cover it. I don't cover.
I cover like 25 miles north, all the way east to the ocean, which is like 10, 15 miles from my house. And then basically 25 miles south. Not much west because we hit the Everglades. So it's not much. It's like basically a county and a half is my coverage area.
Yeah. And minimizing your territory. I bet when you did lending work,
that's how you make more money. Minimize your coverage area.
I bet when you did lending work or focused on it like solely, you had to kind of cover a lot more, right?
I did. Well, I used to cover all the way down to like South Miami and stuff, and all the way up north to like North Palm Beach and stuff. Loxahatchee. Now I don't. Now I don't leave. I stay close. Thank God, because I have a good network around me.
I used to feel like I had to service the lender, but then I'd catch them. Using me like that, where they would send some other appraiser 3 blocks from my house or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, minimizing your territory, and you're familiar with the markets you deal in versus trying to stretch yourself out.
And travel time. It's like I actually started making more money when I did that. I cut my coverage area.
I will go most areas pretty, Chicago metropolitan, north, south, east, west when I do my multifamily apartments, because they're such small markets. It's so easy to understand, and the fees are good, and our setup for our report writing is there. So I still do well on them, and I enjoy them. It's just otherwise, for the residential stuff and the residential stuff, I keep pretty tight to, it probably doesn't go 25, the same thing, like 25 miles or something. And commercial, I try and keep low just because I want to be real familiar with the market that I'm doing it in, if I'm doing it,
All right. So Ernie, we've gone an hour right now. So what do you want to do? You want to take a break and talk to and close this out, and then give our elite members some bonus content? We've got some other areas to cover about, breaking into private work, talking about fees, and then some strategies for other appraisers. So you want to break here and close it, and we'll go into some elite content, or what else you want to talk about? Because we could probably go on for probably 2 more hours.
Yeah, right. Right. Yeah, I mean, the only thing I want to say is anybody wanting to get into private work, just make sure, you're kind of educated on it, whether it's, the IRS estate type stuff, I mean, are you ready to go to court if they call you, if you want to do divorce? Because it's not for everybody. And I mean, getting questioned on what you did and how you prepared your report, you have to be ready for that, whether it's a deposition or they do call you to court. And, and the same thing for, estate stuff. I mean, the IRS looks at that, some of that stuff too, pretty hard. So you just have to be careful, and if you're doing private stuff like assessment appeals, you really have to be educated on what, how to prepare those and how they work, and how your municipality that handles that or takes them works. So, I mean, anybody can say they want to get into private, but you really need to just educate yourself and be ready for what it entails.
Totally correct. Even your assessment work, you can actually talk to your assessor and ask them about the process. Just talk to them. Not even the property appraiser. Just talk to one of the assistants. They're all appraisers. You can talk to them, or some of them may not, but they'll let you know about the process.
But even sometimes even on their freaking websites are super educational.
Sure.
But you can't just get into private and just start taking stuff and put stuff on. I mean,
what I see is URAR. Don't do that.
Right.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Right. 100%. And I mean, it's, if you don't want to be customer service related or listen to them speak or be able to, go over their options and all their issues on the phone, or, have staff that will, it's not for you, but it is rewarding. I enjoy it a ton, and sometimes the lending stuff can get easy, but sometimes the lending stuff can be a freaking headache too. And what if it's not there when half the jobs are taken by the automated systems and, and the property inspectors and stuff,
I mean, you're just securing your future. You don't know what's going to happen, but
the private stuff will be there no matter what. And if you get really proficient or you want to narrow down a couple of those areas, it'll be there forever. And I mean, appraisers are only aging, I mean, there's not a ton coming in. And if average age is probably 60 or over, I mean, in the next 10 years, if you do private and you focus on private, in years to come, that side of the business will always be there, regardless of what all these GSEs do,
Right. And my thing was, like, even with the new forms coming out, like, I may not even want to do that. So I just want to have that option, like, hey, I can either invest my time, learn how to do this, or heck, maybe I don't want to do it and don't need to learn it. I just want to have that option. I don't want somebody to dictate, like, hey,
this is the way
appraiser,
you have to do
this
things.
Is how you're doing it.
Right.
I'm like, that sucks. I hate being told what to do.
Right. Especially when everybody tries to master the way we already do things, and
yeah,
they have to redo them.
It's gonna suck trying to learn that new form and how it works.
I think so.
And it's probably gonna weed out a lot of appraisers who are just like gonna say adios. My volume's low. I'm done. So
and we do some lending work. I kept a new construction client, and we don't do a lot of lender, banker, AMC single family stuff outside of that new construction client, but randomly we do. Sometimes it's one-offs, or sometimes they might offer a fair fee outside of the $275 that they normally offer.
Yeah. I totally agree. 20% of my work is still lending.
I mean, I enjoy doing that too, or if it's super local and it just makes sense.
Churn and burn. I just told you one about $675, 2 miles away from me, a lending job. I'm like, yeah, I'll do that. Right. I have no problem doing that. It's easy money.
And I like I said, I enjoy some of the lending too, because it gets away from some of the other headaches. But with the new form, I don't like you said, I don't really even have a desire to learn or care, because I could do other stuff,
Yeah.
If it's simple and you could systematize it, okay. But I'm not worrying about it until, because I know some of the lenders probably, depending on how they're structured, might not even go that route. from what I gather, it might, it might not be that way, but
Right. If they don't sell to them, maybe they just got their own
right.
thing.
But I have no desire, not worried about it, thankfully. But that's because, the past 5 or 6, it's been 6 years of 6 or 7 years of building the private stuff. So, I mean, thankful, always ups and downs, but it's not the rates, or some pandemic making or breaking my
Sure.
my finances or my income or my workload.
All right. All right. So Ernie, I'm going to end it here, and then
Okay.
we'll go into some content for the elite members. So
Sounds
everybody,
good.
Ernie, thanks again for
Thanks
for being a guest.
Thanks for listening.
And
Anybody who does.
yeah, and of course, appraisers. The advice is, expand your horizon. Just diversify, learn about private work, and get out there and just market yourself to get that business. That's my advice to you guys is like, don't listen to us and say it takes 5-10 years or whatever to establish yourself. But if you start today and you don't have any, you're going to thank yourself 5 years from now that you've diversified and don't have to deal with some of this 100% lending stuff. So that's my advice. So appraisers, thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next episode. And Ernie, hang around for the elite members. Okay.
Okay. Sounds good.